BookTube. I'm here to do a tag today. It's the African Writers tag, and it was created by Rashmikas Likes Books, and I was tagged by Joseph Francis Burton, and I will leave a link to their channels in the description below. I want to preface before I start the tag that when I was looking at the questions of the tag and trying to find my answers, I realized I have not read a lot of African literature. So, yeah, this is a really good tag for me to do because it really brings into my mind that I need to branch out in my reading. So, number 1, try to greet us in at least one African language. English, German, and French don't count. We're trying to go beyond colonialism is what it says. So, since I know sign language, I decided to look up an African sign for hello. And I chose to do the Kenyan African Sign Language. Because if you don't know, each area, really each region has its own sign language. So in America, we have American Sign Language. And it's like Mexico has its own sign language. So it's not like even their own continent. So anyway, I chose to do Kenya's hello, which is this. So I'll do that again. That's their hello for Kenya. So, because I have a really hard time with pronunciation. Like French and Spanish and all that in college and high school is really difficult for me. So, like a sign language is, I can get a hand on that one. So, anyway, number 2. Look up a list of African countries. Which African country had you never heard of before? And so I went through a list on handy Wikipedia. And some of them that I've never heard of is Benin, Burkina, what's another one? There's quite a few in here I haven't heard of. Eritrea? I can't even pronounce it. Eswatini. So, and Lesotho. Those, I'm going to choose those. Yeah, I am not familiar with those countries. Number 3. Which African country do you want to read more about? Well, since I haven't read hardly any, I'm going to go with any and all. If you have any recommendations for some African literature, then let me know. Which African country have you read most about? And I'm going to say probably Egypt. That's that stands out for me the most. It's like, yeah, I've probably read the most about Egypt. Number 5. Which is your favorite African non-dysphoric writer? So, a writer from Africa. And when I was looking, I just looked on Goodreads because I don't have like a physical representation of the books I've read, so I just looked on Goodreads for like African writers. And the only one on that list I could see that I've actually read is Cutting for Stone by Abraham Rugesi. I read it a couple years ago. He's an Ethiopian writer. So let's get on to the next question. Number 6. What is your favorite African dysphoric writer? So, and she gave an example of like you can do like African Americans, or and so I'm just gonna go with that route because I know for sure I've read some of those. So I'm gonna go with Kindred by Octavia Butler. Also read her Earthseed trilogy. Duology. It's a duology. Yes, and those really good. And then I'm also gonna go with Alice Walker, The Color Purple, because that's immediately was brought to my mind when I thought of African writers and books. Number 7. Which is your least favorite African writer? I really don't have any, honestly. I haven't read enough to have a least favorite. Number 8. What genre would you like to read but set in Africa? And I would really like to read more nonfiction. I've read a couple, but it's such a large country, continent, and there's so much history there. So yes, for sure, history is my answer. Number 9. Share a few books on your TBR by African writers. And so when I mentioned history, I was thinking nonfiction. So this book isn't by an African writer, but it's a book about Africa that I've been meaning to read for ages, but I just haven't got to it. This is Africa by John Reeder, a biography of the continent. Because, like I said, like there's so many different regions and languages and cultures. So this book, it's 816 pages. I could have done this for my mammoth. So I think it's going to have a good, hopefully a broad overview of all to do with Africa. And then as for African books by African writers. These were 2 on my TBR. The Moor's Account by Layla Lalami. And this came out in 2014. And it says, in 1527, the conquistador Panfilo de Narvaez, I'm horrible with language, you can tell, I can't pronounce these names, sailed from the port of Sanlúcar with a crew of 600 men and nearly 100 horses. His goal was to claim what is now the Gulf Coast of the United States for the Spanish crown, and in the process become as wealthy and famous as Hernan Cortez. And then this, another one on my TBR is Wizard of the Crow by Ngugi wa Thiong'o. And this came out in 2006. And it says, from the exiled Kenyan novelist, playwright, poet, and literary critic, a comic novel that is certain to take its place as a landmark of post-colonial African literature. And it says, in exile now for more than 20 years, Ngugi has become one of those. Oh, is there a description of this book? Oh, here it is. Okay, sorry. Commencing in our times and set in the Free Republic of Aberiria, the novel dramatizes the corrosive humor and keenness of observation, a battle for control of the souls of Aberirian people. So yeah, it's those are the 2 books my TBR from African writers and the African biography. And so let's see, number 10, tag some friends. And I'm going to say, if you've read a book from an African writer, then you're tagged. Because I really need to inform myself a lot more on some African writers. So yeah, thanks. See you soon, BookTube.